give us some heat on the chiropractic world.
So when I think of people, I just had this profound thought one day. I look at everybody as like what you would see in a museum. You're seeing like a brain and a spinal cord and like the nerve roots going up from the spinal cord. And you think about how powerful an adjustment is to that, especially like an upper and cervical adjustment of you're connecting their brain to the rest of their nervous system. And for me, like, I get it. I didn't go to a chiropractor till I was 21 years old. I'm from Oakland City. Like, we didn't have a chiropractor. All you hear about chiropractors is they pop backs, they're fake doctors, you don't know anything about it. I get it. I've heard all the stereotypes, I've heard all the misconceptions. I'm a human being too.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mind Fluxed podcast, a show for creators and doers who want more, want better, and aren't going to let anyone stop them from getting it. Guys, if this is your first time listening to us, this is a show for independent thinkers, and our episodes, our ideas, our tools, our guests, everything is built for you and your success on this success journey. As always, we are downtown in Indianapolis, produced by Benji Got Beats. I'm one of your hosts, Tristan Parmley, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Josh Matthews.
And we got a guest today, but before I introduce him, I want to remind you guys, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe, and if you're listening on iTunes, based on the value you get from this episode, leave a review. Now, our guest. Dr. Jordan Burns is somebody who exemplifies what the show is all about. Mind flux means to change, and when you change your ideas, your mind, a lot of things start to happen in your life and change. And in the past year, he has literally catapulted into what would be considered the success journey. As a chiropractor, he's went from being in a practice, to owning the practice. On social media, from only a couple hundred to several thousand followers, from being little known to very well known and making a big impact. So, Dr. Jordan Burns, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. That was really nice. Intros are really fun.
Yep.
Yeah, I like have nothing on my screen, so it looks like I'm reading, but I'm really not. I think it just allows me to like zone in, because otherwise I might mess it up.
I appreciate the intro.
Welcome. And by the way, shout out to the Bottle Hope dealer.
Yeah, the abovedown.co is their Instagram account. They sent me that bottle.
I love it. So let's get right into the meat and potatoes, man.
Let's do it.
So 500 to 5,000 followers, first of all. There's all kinds of listeners out there. They're on this like success journey. And one of like the biggest things is like, it's not just who you know, it's who knows you, right? And so everybody's out there like networking, trying to create like quote unquote value, trying to be like, there's a perception, the more influence you have, the more income you have. And that's not always true for some people.
True, very much.
But for you, I think you sat down with Josh over a year ago, asked a couple questions, and then I don't know, you're reading Gary Vee's book, and now all of a sudden you've got literally 10 times the following that you had in a year, all organically. Yeah. So, like, first of all, why did you actually, like, truly want to grow you and your personal brand and yourself, first and foremost? And then also we'll talk about, like, how you did it and whatnot, too.
Yeah. Number one reason I think I started my Instagram, which is Dr. Jordan Burns, was I just wanted to talk about chiropractic to people. I feel like, unfortunately, my profession is the most varied healthcare profession in terms of philosophy, technique, and business models. And I just kind of wanted to show that, if you have weird misconceptions or stereotypes about chiropractic, they're misconceptions and stereotypes, and not everybody is that way. I wanted to just showcase kind of what I do, my personality, and just bring chiropractic into the mainstream, because I'm so passionate that every single person on this earth needs a chiropractor. And that was the best way to do it. One of our, Dr. Boone, Ian, had a patient come into the office, because I think I reached out to you in August of 2018. He had one come in like June or July, and she had like 250,000 followers, I think, or something like that on Instagram. And it really boosted his practice just off of that. And I saw that, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I was like, I should do that. Apparently, social media is the way to go. So that was another reason. And then 2018 was a big mind flux shift, paradigm shift for me in terms of just my own like mental health and personal development. And that was kind of where aligning spines and minds and that aspect played into it as well. I just wanted to, if I'm reading a book or listening to a podcast, I feel like it's almost your duty to, if something speaks out to you, to share that with the world. Because if it spoke to you in some way, it would speak to somebody else.
Right. There's billions of us.
Yeah.
It's going to touch somebody.
And I just want to give, like, you credit because, like, even, like, when I first met you, because it was just, like, random. Pretty random.
You're the first person I met from Instagram. It's so cool.
Yeah. And,
Here we are.
Like, we just sat down. We went to a restaurant that's, like, down the street from here, from our studio, and just, like, talked and whatnot, like, had just adding value. Because just as much as, I mean, you probably feel like I added value to you, you added a lot of value to me. Like, we just genuinely built a friendship. But the thing I want to commend you on, because, like, we come across a lot of people all the time that say they want to do something or they start to do something and then they fall off. Like, you kept on it. Like, you started out, like, very little followers, like, very little influence at that point, and you just use a resource. You invested in yourself. Maybe the book was probably, like, what, $15? And from there, you just stayed consistent, and you did the right things every single day.
Yeah. I think for me, it's I have luckily, unlike a lot of people, found something that I absolutely love and am passionate about, and I do it every single day. And like I said, the whole mission of, I think everybody needs a chiropractor. And one of my friends actually just posted a video recently, and he was saying that, I don't know where he gets the statistic from, but it was 14% of the population sees a chiropractor.
Yep.
And that's like...
That's up 1%.
That's literally the saddest thing ever to me.
Right.
So, like, I'm never going to stop.
Yeah.
For that reason alone. Yeah. Like, because I believe it's that important.
Yeah, and that's what fuels the fire.
Yeah.
That's what. So for everybody who doesn't know, too, like, so Josh and I talk about business, and if you listen to our first season, we have it like in a vault. So we have a lot of followers and fans from that, and a lot of people coming on now. We own an agency for chiropractors. Like, we work very closely with chiropractors. So it's also ironic that we're like friends and associates, and you're also a chiropractor. Like, like you're on the wave, right? And you're also a chiropractor, right? Like, we hadn't interviewed any of our clients or anything like this. There's a difference, right?
Yeah,
You're doing it, and you're not only like doing what you'll say, like you're gonna do, but then you'll see things like spoken into existence into your life. So you'll do what you say you're gonna do, and then the reverse will happen. Like, you'll think about things and they'll actually manifest in your life. It's something I see you post and talk about a lot, like this concept of, universal intelligence, right? And then I think a lot of people may be following you, because you did shout out your Instagram. We'll get that plugged in a few times. Sure. Following you, they're going to see aligning spines and minds. They're going to see chiropractor. They're going to see a lot of positivity. They're going to see a lot of stuff that looks like universal, right? So where does like that understanding or piece of you like come from? Because a lot of people might write that off as like overly positive guy. Of course, he's got his own practice. He's newly engaged, right? Of course, he's a doctor of chiropractic, right? So he's doing all these things. So he can afford to be positive. He can be positive all the time. Where does that come from? Because it can look manufactured, but you actually really are that embodiment.
I actually had this conversation today because there's such a difference between like preaching a message and living the message. And like my two favorite books, I told you one of them before we started recording. My two favorite books are The Obstacle is the Way and Ego is the Enemy. And I specifically had this conversation this morning actually with a patient that it's not about like reading the book and regurgitating the message in the book. It's about actually living that way and truly transforming your life in that way. So for me, like The Obstacle is the Way, that was kind of the first mind shift book, besides like Crushing It, just starting in my Instagram, of, any trial, tribulation that you have in your life, finding a positive in it. Some things right away you may not see it, but eventually down the road you're going to see why that thing happened in the first place. And then Ego is the Enemy. It talks about how every aspect in your life you're going to be fighting your ego. When you're aspiring to be great, when you reach that greatness and you're successful, you're going to have that ego. And then when you fail, you're also going to be fighting your ego. And those are like the three stages of life, and you're fighting your ego every time. And for me, it's become, I don't want to call it toxic positivity, because I understand that everybody has bad days, but you can still see the good in every day. And I think my biggest thing is when someone comes at me and 5 years ago where I would have had an ego and I would have reacted in some way, I understand that it's a complete projection of that person's own insecurities, fears, whatever it may be. And I need to take a step back and be understanding and just try to be kind to that person. That's why it's cool to be kind is one of the things I say a lot too, because you have no idea what that person's dealing with,
Yeah.
And in my head, you're right. Like, I grew up middle class. I'm a chiropractor. Like, I don't have a tough life by any means, but everybody goes through trials and tribulations. You have no idea what somebody's been through in their life. Like, I have 19-year-old friends that talk to me like they're 40 years old. Shout out to Luke Rex. And you have no idea what somebody's been through. But that's basically where it's come from, is just the books that I constantly fill my head with. I made a video about this once of, you are what you read, you are what you consume as you eat. But, I mean, literally everything that you're listening to on a daily basis, things that you're watching on TV, like, you're going to regurgitate those things. Like, I don't really like to watch Netflix a lot because I'm not going to watch some murder show and have that fill my head. And I don't want to be like lame and be like, oh, I can't relax and watch TV. But like, it's so important what you fill your head with.
Yeah, it is.
That's why I fill it with a lot of positivity. That's why I just spit out positivity all the time.
Right.
And those, I post the same 2 posts every morning. It's a message of love and healing energy tools. And honestly, it's for other people, but it's mainly for me. It's kind of my morning routine. I read those 2 posts out loud to myself. And that was kind of like what you said with the manifesting. It's when I read those things, like, it is pretty crazy to think of, I just became an owner of the practice. I meet a woman that I am just completely in love with, and we get engaged after knowing each other for 4 months. And I remember, I'm not a very religious person, but I'm spiritual. Like you said, universal intelligence is a pretty common, like, chiropractic phrase, and whatever you believe in, God, universal intelligence, entity, the universe, whatever. I said a prayer out loud to the universe 2 weeks before I met Kayla, and it was just like, dude, this is nuts.
You got what you were looking for.
Yeah.
You always get what you ask for. It's crazy. You get what you expect.
So for you, when did tapping into all this, like, occur for you? Like, at what moment did it happen? Like, was it when you got kind of like found your passion for chiropractic that you started diving into things like that? Or was that there before that? Like, at what point?
It's been a snowball effect, for sure. First thing I think we've all talked about before, my dad had a heart attack in 2018. That was kind of the beginning of it. I went to a counselor for the first time after he had a heart attack. He lived. And then it ended up being like this emotional trauma of my dad and I had this normal small-town father-son relationship, super hard on me in basketball. I was actually talking about this with 2 of my friends this past weekend about how I never realized, like, being on the outside talking about it now, I was the kid in high school that his dad was super hard on him in sports, and he'd go to his neighbor's house after, like, basketball games. That's really, like, crazy to think about now that was the perception of my family, was that my dad was super hard on me, and I got really close with my friend. Like, I'm the best man at my friend's bachelor party this weekend. Like, I'm the best man at his wedding this weekend because of that. I was always at his house after basketball games, because if we would lose on a Friday, he wouldn't talk to me till Sunday, and it'd be super condescending about the basketball game. So I ended up, after the counseling, went and realized that I needed to just have a conversation with my dad, and that was really it. We just kind of talked about it. I cried a lot. That was another thing too. I never could cry growing up. It's just dudes being dudes. You don't cry. I saw my dad cry twice. It was at my grandma and grandpa's funerals. And so I literally just had a conversation with him about, you only told me you were proud of me twice growing up. It was in 4th grade when I won a basketball tournament, and my senior year when we lost our last game of sectionals in basketball. And, like, he didn't really say I love you much, and I just never talked about those things. I didn't realize that any coping mechanism I ever used from 0 to 28 was because of that. I was always trying to cope. I had daddy issues, if you will. And then I had that conversation with him, and it was just like gone.
Yeah.
I was fine. Not fine, but I was just like, so much was just like released from me just from saying that stuff out loud. And that was when it clicked. I was like, I just need to start saying stuff out loud. I just need to start like communicating better with everybody in my life. And yeah, I just started reading books. And the more, I mean, it's obviously, you guys know, like, once you just start that path, you can't really stop because it becomes addicting of like, no, I need to constantly be learning. I need to constantly be filling my head with more and more.
Yeah, and I think there's two really important pieces of that puzzle like to put together. So one is like your emotional intelligence. That's one thing that we talk about, and Josh and I have really been having to like unpack as entrepreneurs, as people. Like we've got employees now, we've got like an office now, we've got like all these things that like in the past year it's been crazy for us too. So like that there's a stopping point and there's new walls we hit in the present because of the past, because we're not emotionally aware of how to get over certain obstacles. So the obstacle being the way, right?
That's why I read the book.
It's like I haven't read it yet, but no, it's definitely that's already on my list. I've got so many on my list, but that's definitely one because like that ties me to the second point. So you said the obstacle is the way, and then in the full circle, in a full story, you just explained how it impacted your entire life. That obstacle, right? And what's so cool about books, and whether like there's so many sayings, leaders are readers, right? The average CEO reads like 50 books a year, and the average person reads less than one. When it comes to like a book, and why they're so important is like there's many authors, but most of them only written one. Because if most people won't read a book, imagine the work to write a book. That is usually someone's entire life and philosophy. If somebody's going to commit to a book, so the fastest way to cut your learning curve and to live like somebody who's lived a life you want, somebody who works a 4-hour work week, that's a popular book, somebody who thinks and grows rich, that's a popular book, Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, like those are usually somebody's entire philosophies and like their embodiment. So picking up a book is super important. And like that changed for me too, because I would never read. Josh would always read freshman and sophomore year. Like we were random roommates, right?
Yeah.
And Josh would read and I was just like, nope. I just like didn't. But I think it was junior year, he handed me Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I actually just found the notes the other day. And I was on my way to a track meet, and that was the first book I started reading, and I could not put it down through the whole meet, through the whole weekend, through the whole thing, because it was the first time I was exposed to certain ideas from a different level, like from a different level of understanding. So I think those are two important things to unpack, because your emotional intelligence had revealed that for you, and now you're on this whole new change. And if, as we go to unpack what's happened to you in the past year, that's obviously, been impacted by everything that you became aware of in yourself. You can pinpoint to a book, like, and to
100%. And kind of the whole concept of, so the obstacle is the way, ego is the enemy, and then stillness is the key. Those are all by Ryan Holiday. And they're basically all books on Stoicism. So that's a big reason, I guess, too, with the it's cool to be kind, positivity type message that I put out, is kind of having more of a stoic nature now too. And not in a sense of like not having like emotion to things, but just understanding that, again, when bad things happen, there's good to come from it. And if negativity comes towards you, understanding why it's coming towards you.
Right.
So hold on, what does stoic mean? Just that, what you just said?
Yeah. So a lot of people would think of stoicism as like, I don't have an emotion like towards something, like something bad happens to me and I'm just like not happy, not sad, just like no emotion towards it.
Yeah.
But it's more of just an understanding that, bad things do happen, but there is good in it. And like I said, like how I look at all three of those books as a whole, obstacle is the way. When something happens to you, understanding that there's good in it. When ego is the enemy comes, it's someone comes at you, understanding that it's probably more of a projection of them. And then stillness is key is just kind of like a good, like, trilogy ender of when something happens, when someone comes at you, like, being still and chill about it. And
like how to be within yourself.
Yeah, how to have control over you, because that's really all you have control over.
Right. Gotcha. So then let's talk about, like, reaping the benefits of all these different thoughts and ideas, too. Because, like, so you've been through a lot of change in the past year, 2 years. Essentially.
For real, yeah. No, I was. It's funny because I feel like even when I started my Instagram, like I was doing so well because I had already had that conversation with my dad. I was like really, shooting out positivity to anybody on the outside, especially like looking at my Instagram, you think I've just been like cool this whole time. But I think of where I was just 1 year ago today. I was in a bad headspace. I was not in a good place. I had just went through a breakup and it was just like. Because 2019 for me was really truly the first year where I was just completely alone and like on purpose, like stayed alone, was with myself alone in my thoughts, read more than I ever had, went on a lot of walks, just listening to like classical music and just typing down my thoughts.
Just like a full-blown awakening. And
For
so
real.
some of the benefits,
time.
though, that you reaped of that, though, is like now you're a practice owner, right?
Yeah.
Like you went from
A
being
lot of
working,
clarity, for
Yeah.
sure.
You went from being working in a practice to owning one, right? So like you own a chiropractic office.
Yep.
You're part owner.
Yep.
And how many docs do you guys have?
We have
there?
4 docs, 3 of us own it, 1's an employee. We got 4 other employees.
And how many practice members do you guys see like a month or a week?
Varies individually. We're all pretty varied right now. I would say a week in total, we probably see around like 350 between the 3 of us, or 4 of us.
So just over 1,000 at the end of the month.
Yeah.
So like the reason why I asked that too is because a lot of people who listen to our material are entrepreneurs, they're creators, they're doers. They want a lot of people to see their work, right? And here you are going from being part of a practice. How old are you again?
30.
30. So being a part of a practice at 29 to coming into a practice at 30, and you guys touch 1,000 lives per month. Like that's a big deal. Like it's just pausing there. Like that's a big deal to touch 1,000 plus people a month because they're getting a piece of you, each time. And I want to ask is, are you in your philosophy, are you more of a cup full, abundant, you're pouring in to everybody, or are you kind of like you said, you never know what anybody goes through, they come to you with their ego? Are you kind of like you don't hold any space and let people come to you and pour things onto you in your practice? Are you more of the giver, I guess you would say, and leading people where they want to go? Or are you more of a bring me what you got and let's get you where you want to go?
I could do both, but I would say I definitely am more of like a creator of energy and a creator of positivity for sure. But that's kind of some hippy dippy way I think of chiropractic in general is I'm creating positivity. I'm bringing positivity into your life, even if I don't even put my hands on you, but especially when I do put my hands on you, like the healing power of human touch, what I'm doing with somebody.
Damn.
Yeah.
The healing touch.
So for you, like, because you mentioned, I'm curious about this, like, because you mentioned like ego earlier.
Mhm.
So for you, like, what does that look like? What does ego look like? Because I think a lot of people have ego. A lot of people, but like sometimes it's kind of hard to identify.
It's a hard topic too, because Ryan Holiday starts his book with like, how do you write a book on ego? Like, how egotistical is it of me to write a book about not having an ego? Mm-hmm. And it is, but it's just kind of self-awareness. Like, always working on being humble and having an actual self-awareness of, are your actions and your words matching up? I think that'd be the biggest thing for me. Again, you can say you don't have an ego of responding to somebody in a negative way, but then are you like talking crap about them behind their back or talking crap about them to somebody else? It's just really just, are your words and your actions matching up?
Got you. Yeah, 'cause it's always been an interesting topic to me because I found that I've even found in myself that have like kind of an ego in like certain areas.
We all do.
Yeah, but it was like it's hard to identify what is ego, what's confidence, what's
I think
pride.
again, I wrote a post about this recently of like the keys to every it was about Kayla. It was about a romantic relationship, but really like a friendship, a partnership, like any relationship is being kind, understanding, and being able to communicate effectively. So like for me, when my response is ego, when I think of negative, I'm upset, you're getting under my skin type response, I always go back to that thought of stop and be kind and understanding. Like that's a lot of it, is being able to control that little guy in your head that wants to respond and be egotistical back to somebody or be like mean or condescending to somebody.
Yeah, so it's like, when does ego like a weapon, or
and it's
is
not
it a
being
tool?
like passive and like a wuss. It's just understanding that you have the power to help somebody just in that simple way of being kind to them. Mm-hmm. That's been a really cool thing to see Kayla and I's relationship progress too, is Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith talk about how in their relationship they never cuss and they never yell at each other. Mm-hmm. And we wouldn't cuss at each other, but I think the yelling thing is something that's super interesting, especially in relationships. Not that everybody yells, not like you're screaming at somebody, but even just like raising your voice, like trying not to do that is really cool and powerful.
Would you say that like a raised voice is like a lack of an ability to communicate? Because that's what really cuss words are. They're fillers to describe
100%. I
an
mean, that's how
emotion that
people
a
win
word
arguments.
doesn't fit. Yeah, like if I cuss more than you, I'm right.
Who's the loudest?
Yeah. Like then what I think what's really cool about who's the loudest or say and do, like Josh likes a quote from Inky Johnson, don't let your actions betray your words. But like I was wondering too when you were saying that, is ego an enemy when it's a weapon and not a tool? Because you can use it for influence, like in a way with yourself to say,
For sure.
if you're the best in the world, like if you're LeBron James, the best basketball player in the world right now, you can say that. That's not egotistical.
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
the truth. It is on paper, right? If I'm a millionaire and I say I'm a millionaire, like that's the truth.
And that's what ego is the enemy is. He gives a ton of examples of like, trust me, there are people that are super successful that have big egos. Kanye West. I mean, there are people out there, but over time, like if you look at history of ego, it usually loses.
Well, then I'm like confused because if you're right, if it's a fact, then how does it lose? Is it when your saying outdoes the doing? Is that when ego is the enemy? Like when what you're saying you're going to be or do or are is actually more than what you're being, doing, and are? Is that when it's kind of like a dangerous field
I think so.
to lose? Because it's just like super deep to me to understand. Because like I struggle
And
with
it's
that.
profound for sure. I mean, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it all too. I guess for me, again, I'll probably listen back to this podcast in a year and be like, man, I had no idea what the hell I was talking about.
So for you, because you're from a small town, but then you went to a big college,
Yep.
with IU, and then you moved to a big city, Indianapolis. And on the outside, looking in towards you, just from like when I first met you to seeing how everything is unfolded, everybody knows you. Everybody knows who Dr. Jordan Burns is.
I don't know if that's true, but
No, a lot of people know you.
in Indianapolis, you're
And
a very
then
popular man.
you're very, like, I've had multiple conversations where your name has come up. Like, if I, like, say, like, what we do, your name comes up a lot of times.
The second we say chiropractor.
Yeah.
Oh, so you know Dr. Jordan Burns.
yeah.
Yeah, like, your name comes up a lot. So, like, for you, like, have you always been, like, super social and just, like, had, like, connections like that? Or do you think it just, like, came and it just happened when, like, people know you for your work? Like, I'm gonna try
Fame
that.
and notoriety.
Like, were you always just that guy to just like be people know who you are?
So yeah, I mean, I grew up in Oakland City, Indiana. It's a town of about 2,000 people down by Evansville. I was definitely big fish, small pond. Not in like a bragging way. It's just like
ego.
Yeah. No, but it's just again, I could say that now.
Yeah,
Without
Looking
like
at the results.
Just because, yeah, it's Oakland City. You know, I was actually just in Oakland City recently at a basketball game, and we were walking in the hallways, and we have just like our like state participants ever, and we've had like 10 ever.
Yep.
Since I graduated 12 years ago, we've had one,
Yeah.
I think. I played 4 sports, so I mean, yeah, I was like a big athlete. There's not a lot of Division I athletes that have ever went to my school, so just doing track, and then my Instagram, like Oakland City definitely is like my squad behind everything, like always loving my Instagram and Facebook and always telling my mom how great and positive and all that stuff I am. But yeah, I've always definitely been like an extrovert. On the track team, I was definitely like, not in a loud way, just I've always just been like social.
and
So did you fall into the role of being that guy consistently? Like where you were just always picking up the tab, picking up your teams, picking up the back, like always putting in a little extra work, and so you just naturally it? Or were
Yeah,
you
and
driven to be that subconsciously?
It was my dad for sure. It all again can stem back to that of it was always I had this drive and motivation of wanting to make him proud, and that is one of the best things about it that I did get from it is like the reason that I am this driven, motivated person is because of that, 100%. Like I remember after a basketball game in high school, we had lost, but we all like threw our jerseys on like the middle of the floor, and our head coaches yelled at our entire team because mine was the only jersey that was soaked. And that was just like, that was my mentality and everything though. I was like,
dope.
I don't care if it sucked. I hated it. But it was just like, that was my mentality with everything. I may not be the best at something, but I'm going to outwork you and try my best. And I forget why, but I messaged, maybe a girl I was talking to or something asked me, I can't remember, but I messaged my group text of my family and my group text of my friend probably about a year ago and was like, how would you guys describe me in one word? And literally everybody said driven or motivated. I was like, well, that's cool. That's good to know.
That's like a good practice. I think I'm gonna.
You should do that
to
for
my
real,
friends
just to
and
see,
family.
kind of like, because I never thought about it. Like, what does my friend group think of me? What does
One
my
word.
family think of me? Describe me in one word.
So all listeners, that is your new practice. Definitely out of this episode, you got to do it. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm getting like a lot of value from this. I'm having a good time.
I'm having a good time too.
Yeah, I am too. And so like I asked that question because I find it very interesting, like with people, because like one thing that we say, like people follow those who know where they're going. So that's like kind of like what I'm like alluding to, because like for you, you know exactly where you're going. You're sold on chiropractic care, on helping people discover a way to improve themselves mentally and also like physically. 'Cause also, I think it's a lot more like, I think you're more so like on the mental side too, like, but like of course like chiropractic, it's all connected as we know.
Right.
As well as we
Yeah,
know.
as we know. We're in
But-
the bits.
And
okay?
hopefully, as anybody watching this, you'll find out as well, because
Find a chiropractor.
we just got adjusted today.
Yep.
2 times this week actually. So, but I just find it very interesting because like you're creating a movement. Honestly,
That's what
Like,
I want, dude. I
yeah.
know.
like
That's the whole point.
So let's just like dive right into that right now, though. Why does everybody need a chiropractor? Like in your shortest, like because like we do marketing for this, like not sales, marketing. We believe in it. Like I
Yeah.
did my internship with a chiropractor, and it changed my life
Yeah.
completely. Like on a personal side, like at that time, I was a senior, I was a star athlete, Division I, like NCAA qualifier, doing all this stuff, school record holder. I had a kid, I had an infant with me at the office,
Yeah.
and I'm in there like experiencing an office, right? And the people changing. So like that's your thing. You opened up with it, right? Like why though? Like why is it so important? Why is it so sad that only now 14%, it's up 1% by the way. It was 13. Why 14% only see a chiropractor? So heartbreaking because it's so natural, it's so clean, it's so necessary. So give us some heat
yeah.
on the chiropractic world.
So when I think of people, I just had this profound thought one day. I look at everybody as like what you would see in a museum. You're seeing like a brain and a spinal cord and like the nerve roots going up from the spinal cord. And you think about how powerful an adjustment is to that, especially like an upper and cervical adjustment of you're connecting their brain to the rest of their nervous system. And for me, like I get it. I didn't go to a chiropractor till I was 21 years old. I'm from Oakland City. Like we didn't have a chiropractor. All you hear about chiropractors is they pop backs, they're fake doctors. You don't know anything about it. I
Right.
get it. I've heard all the stereotypes. I've heard all the misconceptions. I'm a human being too. But I've been in practice now for 4 years, and the stuff that patients say to me, this lady comes in for low back pain. There's plenty of research on, chiropractic for low back pain. That's pretty dead set. Yeah. Everybody can agree on that. Even if you're like a neurosurgeon, you'd be like, yeah, chiropractic can help with low back pain. Neck pain, headaches. But I have these ladies come in for low back pain. All of a sudden, she starts telling me she stopped taking her Xanax for anxiety. And I'm like, that's cool. That wasn't my goal, but that's awesome. And, I got this hope dealer message, and this company also has shirts that says expect miracles. You see that stuff more and more every day, and when you really start to zone in and believe in like, holy crap, how powerful this adjustment is, helping somebody's nervous system function better no matter what. I'm never going to preach that I can cure your indigestion or I can cure your constipation or cure whatever visceral organ issue that you're having, but I know that when I'm adjusting somebody, it's helping that.
Yeah. And
Period. End of story. It's as simple as that. I don't care what anybody wants to say. It does.
Right.
I see it every day.
And the part that like sold me too is like you said, I'm not going to cure it, right? Like the body is designed to do that. Like
100%.
what happens
It's
when
not me, I'm helping.
Yeah, what happens when you break a bone? Like it heals, right? You get a cut, it heals,
It's such
right?
a simple concept that for whatever reason, as a society, we've just grown up to think if a baby has a fever, they need an aspirin. No, the baby needs to have the fever to kill whatever virus that is in its body. Obviously, if it gets too high, you need to do some kind of intervention. But for the most part, your body was designed to heal.
Exactly. And a lot of people think, and a lot of people are unaware, so they think that an outside thing is going to cure them.
Yeah.
But what happens is it causes a new thing and a new problem. And it's like Josh and I have, like, what's really unique about the work that we do is a lot of people in the chiropractic marketing world are chiropractors who wanted to step into marketing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we're marketers who have fallen in love with chiropractic. To the point where I had even considered going to chiropractic school just to dive in even deeper and like make a bigger impact. It is a big deal.
Yeah, no, and just along with the book talk, I guess I wouldn't say The Obstacle is the Way and Ego is the Enemy are my favorite books. My favorite book is called 33, and it's a chiropractic philosophy book. I love chiropractic. I love philosophy. It's basically what all those books are. So a chiropractic philosophy book is like, I'm in heaven. And I talked about it on my Instagram recently, which was probably not the best social media thing to do because it was way over people's heads and just like kind of nobody knew what I was talking about. But really important to me because I fall in love with it more and more every day because of just how powerful what I do every day is. And people don't get, and it's nobody's fault but really chiropractic's in the sense of being able to preach that message. Another reason why my social media is so important to me is because the only way is to preach it to the masses. That's how you preach it to the masses, is getting some girl with 250,000 followers on Instagram to post that she was at the chiropractor.
Yeah.
I was actually, I met with Sean Dill recently. We went to a Pacers game, and it's really cool because he's kind of like the fearless leader for chiropractic
He's a beast, man.
that nobody really gets, and he's taking the like business, personal development mindset model to, at the end of the day, it's still chiropractic is behind the whole thing. And it was such a beautiful thing to talk to him about because it's like, that's my whole thing too. You're just like way older than me and way better at everything. But like falling in love with the philosophy, and you know, with me, I found more of, I definitely haven't posted as many, but like comedy, positivity, getting people in the realm to be able to preach my chiropractic message. Because at the end of the day, that is what I'm trying to do, is just preach chiropractic.
Yeah, and one last thing, and I'm gonna pass it back to Josh too, because it's just like, this is literally what we do every day. So like, it's big. So we do marketing for chiropractors, right? And for us, it's not just like we have a goal this year. We want to sponsor 50 single moms for care because Josh and I are both from single parent households, and our moms both struggled with their health significantly. And we know that if there was more of a natural path available, if they were aware at the time, that things would have been a lot different, you know, for us, because we've heard those same stories and seen them. And as you know, as a marketing team, it's our job to make sure that these chiropractors are helping as many people as possible. They're getting as many people to their door as possible to help them. And what part of what we do that, the process is calling. And there's a, you know, this will be recorded for quality assurance, and it's for teams like us. And I was listening to one today, and this story was being told right there. It's a 3-minute conversation. I got to come in. I just feel like I'm dying. You know, it seems like super dramatic, but then she's like explaining the story and getting her appointment. She's so excited to get in there because she'd been in the past and fallen off. And I was like, that's it. That's why I do it. We've got a chiropractor we just started with us. He's literally got like 6 appointments the past 2 days now. And we know that's 6 more people that might be off their anxiety medication, that might be off the next thing and are definitely going to be feeling better. And like, that's why we do what we do. And I don't think we've ever gotten a chance to explain that. Ironically, it's on this show, which is like another brand.
Yeah, yeah. So like for you, I mean, because obviously your life is just like, you're taking quantum leaps right now. So
Yeah, big time.
like a lot of quantum leaps in the past like year and a half, which I commend you on, just like from seeing it there just happen, unfold. It just proves a lot to me that, you know, you can really take leaps, and especially when you're just every single day committed to what you're doing. But for you,
It's a compound effect.
it
Another
is.
good book.
It is, and we had a whole episode on that.
There's a book.
It's called
Yeah.
The Compound Effect. Oh yeah, that's up there.
Dude, we had one of our best episodes of the year was that. I didn't know there was a book.
Yeah, but it's just like doing the little things every single day, and eventually, it just like compounds and grows. And the reason we had it too, because I had a weights coach who, at the end of every semester before like test week, when it came to weights, he sat the whole class. Only teacher that's ever taught about like finances or anything talked about compound interest, and like if you as if you start at this age, you invest this much money this every single year for 8 years or how many years, you'll have this amount of millions of dollars. Only teachers that ever did that. But that's just like besides the point.
Nobody did it.
But
Still.
Nobody did it.
But
Still.
the compound effect talks about that. It says, would you rather have $3 million today or have a penny today that doubles in value for the next 31 days?
Yep. You end up like $5 million. You end up
10 mil. The
10.
penny ends up being $10 million on day 31. So it doesn't pass the 3 million until day 30. So then it goes to 5, and then it goes to 10 on 31.
Yep. Yep.
Compound.
Compound. So for you, because obviously there's so many moving pieces for you right now, but like once the practice like grows even more, like are you just going to continue doing what you're doing, or like what's the next level for you? Like what are you trying to? What's next? Like
we've already been talking about opening a second location, even though we're not like fully at capacity. We've just got docs that we want at the office, just that fit the pro wellness culture and the pro wellness vibe. And obviously we just want to bring it to more people. That'd be the next biggest thing. But yeah, that's like what I was saying. The biggest focus for me this year was like, okay, now that I'm an owner, like I know that, because 2 of the docs that are older at the office are like 37. They talk about all the time how, you know, for only being there for 2.5 years, you are leaps and bounds ahead of where I was. But I'm like, that's fine. But my only competition is myself. I feel like that's a rarity in a lot of professions. I actually almost posted a post about this today of like people having a scarcity mindset instead of an abundance mindset. And it's just like, I'm just trying to build and beat myself. Every week. I've never been so analytical to actually like look at my numbers. I've really started to do that. They've started to increase. I mean, since I took over December, January, February, this week actually specifically is going to be the best week I've ever had. And I'm not even working on Saturday, so it's a short week, and I'm still going to see the most patients I've ever seen in a week. And I don't even remember what you asked. I just started going on a rant about
The compound
patients.
effect. That's the thing, though.
The compound effect, yeah.
But that's the thing. You were just
It's
looking at the
snowballing.
numbers. Yeah. And
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. It was just like my biggest goal right now is to, by the end of the year, have like my books maxed out.
that's awesome.
I like I was saying before too, where kind of I'm at right now, I've been going back through the books that I felt like were the paradigm shifters, the YouTube videos that I felt like were the podcasts, and one YouTube video I specifically listened to. It's got it's an hour long. It's like a motivational, inspirational talk, and it's got a lot of E.T. the Hip Hop Preacher in it. And one of the things that he says in it is, if you're not where you want to be in your life right now, it's because you've never fully committed yourself to something. And for me, I wasn't even going to be at the practice. I think we've even had that conversation. I was going to start my own practice here 4 months ago, and I had this clarity switch one day. You know, like I said, I post those same 2 posts every morning, and then sometimes I'll type my own little positivity thing and just say, let's have a great day afterwards. And I posted one day, and then I saw it and had this like thing click of, what am I doing? Let my ego.
Oh, that's me. That's the call my son alarm. That's the call my son alarm. Sorry.
You're good.
Dad moment. What were you saying?
Let my ego get out of the way and join the practice. I don't remember what else I was going on. I forgot.
I'm sorry. The call my son
son
alarm got me. So, okay. So last question then too with that. Sorry to throw off your vibe, but
you're good.
one thing I want to touch on too, because Josh and I haven't really discussed it, and we've got some people that I want to bring on for it. Is the importance of like relationships. Like we talked about it with Adam and networking and whatnot. And Josh and I have an incredible partnership. Like the work we do, that's like probably going to be the hardest. It's the hardest thing to master, but it's like we're both so committed on something, right?
Yeah.
You have practice members yourself, or I guess practice owners that you're in business with, right? Like that's there's blood, sweat, and tears is one thing. Well, you tie in your money with each other. That's a big deal too.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. But you just recently got engaged. And the reason why I want to bring that up is because our show, we talk about change. We talk about like accepting that kind of abundance in your life, right? And you talked about emotional intelligence on this episode. And so we talked about, before we started this, you said, when you know, right? Like I have a goal. I want to be married. Like I see that. I write down, the woman that I want, and I think our listeners out there should write down the spouse that they want, the business partner they want, the team they want. You even said you kind of manifested that a little bit. So like, literally, like I don't have a specific question. Just tell us about that experience.
Cool.
How do you go from
I'm excited about
single
this.
to like, dude, you're about to get married.
So that was one of my things last year too. Being alone, being in my thoughts a lot, it was about that. And it wasn't necessarily from an age thing. It was just because I'm such a lover. I'm such a giver of energy and love and compassion. And I was like, I can't wait to give that to somebody. And I used to have a list in my phone of like things that I wanted in someone. And it was basically a pros and cons list of every girl I've ever like been in a relationship with. And I think it was even so the month before, I had two specific moments that I remember before I met Kayla. It was like a month before I was driving my car home, and I had actually decided to delete that list of things that I wanted in somebody because I felt like any girl I would even talk to, I'd always find something on the list that she wasn't, and I would just like be in my head that she's not it, she's not it. So I changed the list, and I wrote a paragraph in my computer, and I sent it to my phone. So I had it in my notepad, and it was, "Dear Universal Intelligence, thank you for my wife. She is these things. She is this." And said, because the list said someone who is, someone who is. So I changed the whole concept of it and said, she's already here. One thing that I started to do before I ever even met Kayla was imagining her next to me. I was like, my wife, I can feel her energy next to me. You know, when I'd go for a walk down Mass Ave on a Sunday, I would think about what it would feel like to have her with me because she's already here. She already exists. Like whoever you're going to end up with is already here. They already exist. Their energy is already on this planet.
You can't create them, so they're already there.
So it's like I would think about how I would feel in that moment. I would be driving my car down the road, and I would think about how I would feel. And I remember it was literally a month before I met Kayla. I was driving home, and I just had a shit day at the office. I don't even really remember what happened. It was just like, I think I just, it is sometimes you do take patient's energy, and if everybody comes in and they're in 10 out of 10 low back pain, it weighs on you for sure if it's over and over and over. And I was driving home. I was actually going to volunteer at like a kids camp that weekend, and I was thinking about that whole concept. I read that list out loud to, again, praying to the universe. I was crying in my car, and I got a flat tire. Like on the way home, it happened. But just that concept of taking that list and making it as a, she's here. Stop stressing so much about it. Like, just know that she's going to happen and she's going to exist. And actually, I said this before. Like, I had a Odessa tattoo last year. One of my walks on a Sunday, I was listening to "Across the Room" by Odessa just over and over while I was like writing and listening to stuff. And I ended up getting the opening line to that song on my arm. It says, "Long hair across the room, baby, she got that glow." And the concept behind that tattoo was, it's like a future wife tattoo of, I always want to look at my wife from across the room with the same love and glow that I did like day one. And the cool thing about Kayla is that she's a pacemate. So like, I not only get to see her from across the room, I get to see her from across an entire arena. And, she's one of 8 blondes on the pacemates. And she's always like, "Do you know which one I am?" And like, I always know which one you are. Like, you are literally the one with the glow. Like, I know who you are. You are like, yeah. And it's such a cool thing and a powerful thing. Cause I got that tattoo around this time last year, like I said, when I wasn't really in the best headspace of just like thinking about that. And to meet her, we met at the celebrity cook-off. Shout out to Join Plug, Landon, for inviting me to that. And I remember seeing Kayla for the first time from across the room, no joke, because we had DM'd that day on Instagram, and I was like knowing that I was going to meet her that night, and I remember seeing her walk in, like, because I was with somebody else, and I was like, "Oh, cool, there's that pacemate girl." And then I went over and talked to her.
And then the rest is history. I think the coolest part about that is like you kept saying she and her and here, like so present to where people would think, if they just listened to this with no context, they would think that you were literally observing her, like that you were watching her, like a creep. But
it was cool. Like one of the first times Kayla and I were like riding in my car together, I started to cry, and she like saw me doing it, and then I had to explain to her the whole story. I was like, how I imagined being in that moment and how it would feel having my wife next to me, and I just felt that way. I could cry right now. I can't even talk about it.
Well, don't cry right now. But that's why I wanted to ask.
But it
you.
was
So
just
cool.
like, it was a manifestation like thing, and it's hard to explain. It really is. You really don't understand unless it happens to you. Because I think, unfortunately, like obviously a lot of people settle and get into relationships, and that's why I had no like I bought a ring after knowing her for a month. I've dated a lot of girls. Like I've had
You're a good-looking guy.
7 or 8 girlfriends in my life, and it was right away. I was like, no, this is like the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with.
That's so deep.
Yeah, that's tight.
Like it's cool. It's like Josh and I have observed it for sure.
Yeah, and I know for a fact it's like major. And it's ironic we're like talking about this because we don't get to touch on topics like this. But like I was even reading, I read Think and Grow Rich like every single day.
Nice.
So, like right now I'm in the
It's a good habit.
Yeah,
That's cool.
And ironically I'm in the chapter of like sexual transmutation. So a lot of it's talking about how like every like successful man has the inspiration like of a woman next to him, and he just like his creative energy and his purpose is just like on a whole nother level.
It's on a whole nother level. I used to talk about that to my friends before I met her. Of like, everybody says I'm driven and motivated. Imagine when she actually exists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why Josh and I talked about it too. Is like I have written down, like I want that. You know what I mean? And what's so crazy is so many people want like a superficial. They want an external thing. Like no, this is an internal thing. Like I want the best to be pulled and brought out of me on a daily basis, and there's nothing better than that for that to
100%.
happen. And like that's what you were yearning for. You were like, I can't wait to have this in my life because of what it's gonna make me. That's why there's a concept of like goals are not for you to go to, it's for you to grow to. And that's why those relationships, that's why partnerships, because like it's in a way like obviously Josh and I are not in a romantic relationship, but there's moments where like I only go a little harder because I know Josh is. I show up a little bit better because I know Josh is. I have a shit day, but Josh isn't. So I gotta pick it up. It's like a business partnership is important too. That's why a relationship like that is so important to like the core of a being.
100%. And not looking for the superficial things. Like I told her that right off the bat. I was like, obviously, she's a pacemate. She is unfathomably gorgeous, but that is the least interesting thing about her. That was not why I wanted to date her in the first place. That wasn't why I even asked her on a date. First thing that attracted me to her was she was hilarious. I saw some picture of her being the pacemate, and she was making like some goofy face, and I was like, she's the dorky one. I'm going to talk to her. And then we just opened up a lot on our first date. I mean, we talked about the trauma that the two of us have been through in the 30 years we've had. A lot of emotional, some physical, just like traumas that we've had. And just her being able to open up like that to me on a first date, I thought was really powerful. Mm-hmm. And like I told you guys before, I can't remember if this was on the podcast or if this is before the Ben Shapiro thing.
Yeah, it was before.
Before?
Yeah. You didn't.
Well, one of the docs in my office sent me a video when I was dating a girl 2-3 years ago, and it was Ben Shapiro, and he was talking about if your values, beliefs, and where you see yourself in the future line up, get engaged today, get married tomorrow. And when he said this to me before, it made no sense. I was like, nah, man, this doesn't hit home. This is dumb. And he said this to me again when I first started dating Kayla, and I was like, yeah, actually, I've already bought a ring, so this does make a lot of sense. So I am going to do that.
Yeah.
Because it talks about in the thing, people get so caught up in passionate love, lust, whatever, and forget about companion love. And companion love is what actually matters, and companion love is what's going to take you through the rest of your life together. And that was, right off the bat, I could just see that in Kayla and understand that this is a woman. This is not...
It's going to pull more out of you. It's going to be the best out of you. It's going to make you...
It was the first time I felt like I was dating and talking to a woman, too, and not just like a girl, because unfortunately I've had a history of dating a younger girl.
Got it. Dan, that's crazy, man. Because, like, that was the last question I wanted to ask, too. Because, like, observing that is, like, we get questions about that, too. And, like, so many people what's so crazy is so many people come to us as, like, solo. And they come and ask these questions of, like, they're on their own and they want to know how they can do all of this themselves. Like, nobody's ever done it themselves. You need people. And, like, mastering communication, mastering yourself with your relationships with people is how you're going to get there. Not mastering people.
Right.
Mastering yourself and how you present yourself in your relationships with people is how you're going to get there. And I just think that that's one of the coolest parts about like all the change that you've gone through in the past year. And everybody who's, listened to this who already knows you is going to be able to see it. But what's crazy is in another year, another quantum leap is going to happen.
For sure.
And people are going to be like, dang, that's where he was in 2020, February 2020, and here's where he is in 2021 and 2030. Right? Like, it's only going to... Exactly. It's only going to progress because of this lifestyle, this concept, this acceptance to change and willingness to, come to the table. So,
Boom.
I appreciate it, bro.
Proud of you, man.
This was awesome. This was a good talk.
Finally did it. I ain't gonna lie, I've been texting Jordan back and forth like in spurts, like, hey, we should get you on, and then nothing happens.
We finally made it happen.
And we finally made it happen. So,
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. I'm excited, man. I'm happy for you, genuinely happy for you, just seeing your growth and where you started, and then also where you're heading. Like I said, you're gonna be huge, man.
Thanks, guys.
For real.
Appreciate it. Appreciate
awesome.
you for coming, man. So, one more time, where can they find you on social media?
Let's see. We got Instagram's Dr. Jordan Burns, Facebook's Dr. Jordan Burns. I have a TikTok, actually. It's not very good. I just started it. Dr. Jordan Burns as well. And then I should just put it out there, YouTube too. Dr. Jordan Burns. I have 0 videos on YouTube.
Look at the handles, all
He's going to
matching.
have it all matching.
Gonna start.
We're trying to get ours matching too. Guys, wow, that was really good. I got gold nuggets for this. I'm going to go back and listen to get some notes for sure from this one. So for everybody listening, based on the value you got from this episode, please leave a review on iTunes. That's the fastest way we're going to share this, the fastest way we're going to grow this to get to millions of people. Our goal is to be, in the top 5 and eventually the top, podcasts in personal development, entrepreneurship, and really just like that self-guidance and not self-help, self-guidance to get where you want to go. This show, Mind Flux, is something we're incredibly passionate about. It's kind of like how you found Chiro, in a way for us. So I want to thank everybody who's come through and listened through this entire episode. You can find us at Mindfluxed, MINDFLUXED. You can find Benji at Benji Got Beats. He produces the entire show. He's so dope. And you can find me at Tristan Is Thinking. Josh, where can they find you?
I am Josh Matthews.
And eventually, all of our handles will be consistent, too. I don't think they're all consistent. So
Not
we'll
at
just
all.
start there on Instagram. Josh, you got anything else?
No, that's it.
You got anything else?
Who's your Cairo?
Who's your Cairo? Dope. Awesome, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Peace.